Previously on every failed OS that could have been, we checked out three promising operating systems that duked it out to dominate the consumer market, only to be orphaned by their own creators, or find success in a completely different market. In this sequel, we'll be heading into some of the corporate fumbles of the market that were just as promising as the last ones were never made it. These fumbles were generational, so sit back and grab yourself a bite-sized bucket of popcorn. It only gets worse from here. The first entry on our list is OS2. The big fat baby from the dreams of IBM and Microsoft, designed to be the ultimate multitasking operating system, destined to replace DOS and to rule over the subjects of the PC world. It was developed in the low-level triad of programming languages C, C++, and assembly. The OS first dropped in 1987 and kicked off with a rocky start. Microsoft left the project after version 1.3 to focus on Windows 3.1, the equivalent of having your own partner competing against you. IBM had to take the torch and continue development alone, with the last major update being Warp 4 in 1996, but it just couldn't compete with Windows, and the last update for fans came out in 2001, with support officially ending on New Year's Eve of 2006. But what actually went wrong? While Microsoft got sturdy to making Windows the next big thing, IBM had lost millions of dollars on a marketing campaign targeting consumers for a version called Workplace OS that had failed spectacularly. Turns out, the perfect storm can be brewed from some corporate drama and having the notorious monopolizer betraying you. Although it is no longer supported, it continued to exist in two different forms. The first being as e-com station by a company called Serenity Systems, which had ended in 2011. And the second being as Arca OS by the company Arca Noe, which is still around today. Entry number 2, however, tried a different approach, attempting to corner a more niche segment of the market. The OS that was meant to be. Get it? Meant to be OS? Anyways, this was an operating system designed to be the OS for everything media, and came packaged with a GUI and multitasking and multi-threading built in. From audio to video to 3D graphics, it could handle all of them. The software dropped on October 3rd, 1995 and was developed by B Incorporated, a company founded in October 1990 by former Apple exec Jean-Louis Gasset. I hope I pronounced that properly. It was designed for AT&T's Hobbit CPUs and ported to IBM's PowerPC, Apple's Macintosh computers, and the Intel x86 systems. BOS was a great piece of software. It came with a powerful graphics engine, a file system that could handle terabytes of data, Unicode support, and POSIX compatibility to a degree. It had successfully built a niche fanbase, and version R5 had even achieved over 1 million downloads. You might be wondering where it went downhill. Despite all the benefits it had, especially for multimedia applications, it had never gotten a large market share. It had been overshadowed by the likes of Linux and similar operating systems, and Microsoft had sabotaged its adoption by limiting the pre-installs of the OS on hardware from its OEM partners. Then, it also had struggled financially, with B Incorporated choosing to divert their attention to a stripped-down version of their flagship software, the version being called BIA. It had an unsuccessful launch. BOS was one of those operating systems that could have been what you're watching this video on, and while it did build a fan club, its developer should have worked on a sequel called Be Yourself, rather than BIA. Okay, I think we all know that last part was funny. But let's now talk about the notorious monopolizer that played a role in BOS's failure, Microsoft. On October 26, 2012, Microsoft launched Windows RT, short for Redefining Terror. I meant runtime. It dropped alongside Windows 8 as part of Microsoft's effort to branch into touch-based devices. Windows RT was designed for ARM-based processors and shipped mostly on tablets, notably on the Surface RT, but you couldn't purchase or download it separately. No, it came pre-installed. It was promising, on paper at least, and was completely touch-based with Microsoft Office RT out of the box, and built-in support for USB peripherals, which had given it a competitive advantage over other touch-based operating systems. It even came with its own toolkit for developers, WinRT, which was a confusing name. Here's the catch, or more accurately, here were the catches. Windows RT wasn't capable of running any Windows apps that were developed for x86 systems, and it could only run apps from the Windows Store, which was in its infancy and quite small back then. It had also come with a confusing name convention out of the box, with many customers associating it with Windows 8, believing they were the same, only to find out that one couldn't run much of anything. The production capacity of Windows RT models was also weak and harmed mainstream adoption. Only 5 models were ever manufactured, with Windows devices running on Intel chips, quickly outshining them. If you add that to a mix of poor developer support and limited compatibility, you get redefined terror instead of runtime. Microsoft turned a blind eye to many problems that were obvious, and the market turned their backs on Windows RT in return. These were some of the most notable corporate fumbles in a battle to be the dominant consumer OS. And we all know the winners today, being Microsoft, who bounced back from setbacks as all monopolizers do in this day and age, alongside Apple and Google. You could also add Linux up there. However, if you want a better idea of how bad it gets, click here for part 1 of this series, or subscribe for part 3 in the meantime. See ya!